while all living beings on Earth fall into endless anxiety and disputes over the gains and losses of the day. No one could imagine that far above in the silent cosmos, a pair of gentle hands is weaving the night's tranquility for them. He possesses the supreme divine power to crumble starlight and evening wind and weave them into sleeping clouds, yet he is destined to endure eternal loneliness and cold all his life. Tonight, let us, accompanied by the faintly flickering firelight and this story that needs no effort to remember, step into his true life. This elder hidden in the depths of the celestial tracks is the cloud-weaving panda sung of in ancient ballads. At this moment, his large, steady, black and white body is quietly leaning beside an ancient wooden loom that emits a faint shimmer. Within his broad palms, he is pinching a strand of cosmic river filament glowing with pale blue fluorescence, his movements so slow as if time has frozen here. Everyone admires those fluffy, nerve-soothing beautiful nebulas that adorn the night sky, thinking them merely nature's accidental gift. Yet no one understands, deep within the depths of cloud-weaving panda's eyes, which are silent as the profound night sky yet slightly weary, how many lonely prices have been buried for the sake of all living beings falling asleep. Until the coldest wind of late night blows through the white jade pillars of the temple, staining that deep ring of ink around the corners of his eyes with a thin layer of light frost, the story begins from that dark era known as the calamity of sleeplessness. At that time, human hearts on earth were full of greed and violent ferocity. The flames of greed even burned to the edge of the sky, turning into scorching black smoke that did not dissipate for years. That black was filled with the discordant noise of despair, causing every living being in the forests, mountains, and rivers to lose the ability to fall asleep, and the entire world fell into madness and chaos lasting several years. At that time, cloud-weaving panda was not yet the ruler of the sky, but a lazy hermit living on a floating island who liked lying in natural, cotton-like clouds sleeping soundly. However, whenever night descended, those painful wails emitted from the earth by those unable to fall asleep would, strand by strand, bore into his ears with the wind, causing his heart to feel a sharp, wrenching pain. He saw those originally clear rivers gradually drying up, saw living beings staring despairingly with eyes wide in the dark, their bodies weakening day by day, and nature's balance was heading toward total collapse. Cloud-weaving panda finally could not continue to sleep peacefully. He turned over and sat up, looked at his own pair of palms that were broad yet extremely dexterous, and made a decision. He climbed the world's highest sky-piercing peak, and amidst the violent gale of the ninth heaven, stretched out both hands to grasp those wild starglows scattered at the edge of the sky, full of violent energy. The storm cut like blades at his thick black and white fur, and for every moment longer he stayed, the spiritual power within his body would be consumed another portion by the cold, but he never let go. Upon that highest dome that was nearly enough to freeze the soul, cloud-weaving panda held firm for 7 full days and 7 full nights. When he returned to his floating island carrying wounds all over his body, a large clump of cosmic river marrow emitting warm, soft glow was added to his embrace. In order to transform these irritable star glows into soft clouds capable of smoothing emotions, he used 10,000-year divine wood from the base of the mountains to construct a massive weaving loom. He began to inject his spiritual power into it, coordinating with late night's gentlest evening wind, drawing out starlight one by one into fine filaments, then extremely slowly weaving them into the first, sleeping cloud, possessing hypnotic divine efficacy. The shuttle of every silk thread required consuming his great mental effort, and that ancient loom's rustling sound became the sole musical note in that silent late night. However, at that very moment when the first pure white sleeping cloud, as perfect as a dreamscape, was about to drop toward the earth to save all living beings, from the depths of the void a greedy shadow giant hand suddenly stretched forth. That was sleeplessness Mara, the aggregation of all malice and anxiety upon the earth. It could not tolerate the world returning to tranquility, roaring that it wanted to tear this precious sleeping cloud completely to pieces. Cloud-weaving panda looked at this terrifying monster before him emitting rolling black smoke and, without any hesitation, used his massive body to block firmly in front of the loom and sleeping cloud. At the void's edge that night, a silent duel occurred that no living being knew of. Sleeplessness Mara's black sharp claws, carrying mortal world's most bone-chilling anxiety and anger, fiercely clawed into cloud-weaving panda's chest, attempting to pollute his pure soul. But within cloud-weaving panda's gaze there was no anger, only a kind of boundless encompassment and calm like the night sky. He allowed the black smoke to erode his body, yet both hands still steadily manipulated the loom. At this instant, he completely released all the origin divine power within his body, transforming it into millions of golden silk threads, reversely enveloping sleeplessness Mara layer upon layer and refining it. With the drawing in of the last silk thread, Mara's violent roaring gradually weakened, ultimately completely merging into the rustling sound of that ancient wooden loom. Mara disappeared, and the scorching black smoke on earth was also subsequently dispersed. That incredibly pure sleeping cloud finally dropped slowly, transforming into sky-filling soothing night mist, letting all living beings in the entire world fall into deep sleep on this night. However, the price paid was heavy. Although cloud-weaving Panda won, Mara's curse before death transformed into inescapable cold energy, forever remaining deep within his heart. His body began to become heavier than before, and around his originally bright eyes, because of spiritual power's excessive overdrawing and cold energy's erosion, that ring of ink that could never again be wiped away spread. Smiling, he shook his head, did not demand any recompense from the earth that had regained new life, but chose to conceal the cloud-weaving temple within deeper seas of clouds, continuing his lonely labor. Time flowed by silently during cosmic rivers' countless rotations for a full 1,000 years. Countless generations of living beings were swapped upon the earth. They grew accustomed to enjoying gentle moonlight and comfortable clouds at night, yet had long forgotten that life savored dwelling in heaven. Even young flying birds occasionally intruded into this temple, mocking cloud-weaving Panda's movements for how plodding they were, mocking his old loom for how monotonous and uninteresting the sound it produced was. The old panda never defended himself. Whenever a flying bird passed by, he would always casually pull down a small clump of soft cloud fluff from beside the loom, gently patting it beneath the flying bird's weary wings to give them a lift. He understands, everything has its own trajectory. His mission is not to be remembered, but within this empty high altitude, to watch over every fragile soul and safely enter dreams. In order to make Earth's living beings able to sleep deeper, he began, when weaving clouds, to secretly transform his 1,000-year-long lonely psychological transition into an extremely restrained, gentle frequency. He wove the gurgling sound of mountain streams and the rustling sound of wind blowing through bamboo groves into the cloud layers using golden silk threads. This is why people often sleep exceptionally sweetly on rainy nights. The cold energy within his body would break out every late night, making his joints ache as if pierced through by ice thorns, but as soon as he thought of those children displaying smiles and dreams upon the earth, the movements of his hands did not want to stop for a moment. He wove, sheet upon sheet, the softest protection nets using extreme endurance in time's river, for all souls wounded and made fully weary by the mortal secular world. During the final long winter night known as Vanishing of 10,000 Stars, the celestial track encountered a rare cosmic stream riot, countless violent meteors transforming into fire and attempting to rush toward the mortal world. If these meteors were allowed to fall, Earth's tranquility that had just continued for 1,000 years would again be committed to the flames, and countless lives would welcome destruction in dream sleep. Cloud-weaving Panda stood at the temple's very edge, looking at the eye-piercing firelight streaking across the sky. He knew his body, long since oil-depleted and lamp extinguished, welcomed the final end point. He turned around, gave a deep-felt look at that wooden loom that had accompanied him for 1,000 years, then emitted the last low deep sigh of his life. He transformed his final fire of life and soul completely into sky-filling flying black and white silk threads, his whole person spreading open both arms and flying toward that violent meteor shower. Those scorching meteors originally possessing destructive power, upon striking these enormous silk nets woven of extreme gentleness and encompassment, actually one after another lost temperature like dropping into cotton candy. The firelight was extinguished. They did not transform into disaster, but instead transformed into sky-filling brilliant yet utterly non-aggressive magnificent auroras, slowly spreading out in the deep blue night sky, beautiful to the point of suffocation. Countless living beings rising at night upon earth lifted their heads to gaze, seeing only a massive, soothing nebula picture scroll woven of black and white colors with faint golden glow, gently enveloping the entire planet. And that cloud-weaving panda, plodding and always wearing a kindly smile, his silhouette ultimately completely merged into this eternal silent night sky which he had woven with his life, long afterward, until this very moment. That cloud-weaving temple in the cosmos's depths had long ago completely disappeared within the sea of clouds. But whenever night is deep and people are still, and you feel the world exceptionally boisterous and lonely, just close your eyes and listen carefully. You will be able to hear from outside the window waves of plodding, extremely rhythmic rustling sounds. Please need not be afraid, nor need not exert effort to search for that sound source, that is merely the whispering of wind blowing through bamboo leaves, and also cloud-weaving panda's gentle echo remaining deep in the starry sky. His life witnessed black attacks, endured cold and betrayal unimaginable to ordinary people, but what he ultimately left to this world was only this fluffy tranquility. Those gains, losses, rights, and wrongs, heart-stirring thrillers within the story have now all completely landed with the auroras fading, transforming into this wisp of warm nightshade beside your pillow. The current sky profound, tranquil, and safe, sky-filling scattered stars just like his kindly gaze back then, quietly guarding every living being prepared to fall asleep upon the earth. Please assuredly lay down a whole day's tension and weariness, and allow this gust of breeze carrying bamboo leaf fragrance and starry sky temperature to completely empty out your thoughts. Good night. May you, within this silent nebula cloud-weaving panda personally wove for you, have a sweet, long dream far removed from the mortal world, warm and peaceful.